Hey guys, Matt from Hickory Grove here. Today we're going to be talking about two plants that get confused for each other all the time. The plants that I'm talking about is Queen Anne's lace and yarrow. Both are very beneficial to you, but both are different plants. And they get confused quite often, so we're going to go over them today. The first one that I want to talk about is yarrow. And I'm lucky because I have it growing right next to each other. And quite often you will find these two plants next to each other. So the first one we want to talk about, this one right here, is yarrow. Yarrow is a mainly medicinal plant. It is edible as well, but there are some cautions you need to know about it, so pay attention. Let's talk about how we can identify this one real quick, and then we'll talk about its compared one, which is Queen Anne's lace, and the difference in the two. And after this video, I'm confident you'll be able to tell the difference. So anyways, we're going to talk about the top of the flower head on this plant. Yarrow has a flattened, almost domed flower head, and you'll see these little node flowers coming out on the top. Hopefully I'm getting that in good focus. And they all kind of grow together in about 5 or 6 stages on top. And as you come down, you'll see that the stem does have a very, very velvety almost feel to it, but it's very slight. And then it comes down to its leaf patterns, which the leaves look like little mini feather brushes almost, all the way down into that type of pattern. Yarrow was mainly used back in the day and still kind of used for survival reasons and whatnot today. The main reason for it was a stop the bleed tool. Now these little leaves you take and you would just bring as many as you could together. If you got a bad cut, say you were out splitting wood and you split your finger or you split your arm, take this and pack it into that wound. And this is very good to use. It's got an antibacterial agent about it, so it's really good as far as like producing the ability to start sweating and pushing out bad things. So this is what you want to use. It's good for cuts and stuff as a stop the bleed agent. Now another cool thing medicinally is that you can, and edibly, if that's a word, is that you can make a tea out of the flower heads and the leaves. And it's very good for when you're not feeling good. It's just a good booster, as a lot of plants are. It's filled with a lot of good minerals and vitamins. But like I said, it's got Native American roots to it. So they used it a lot back in the day. That it's not used so much now. But this is yarrow, and to use caution with this, I mean, almost with everything that you ingest or utilize, too much exposure can cause an adverse reaction. So using this as a stop the bleed agent for a prolonged amount of time, I wouldn't advise, because you're going to get a skin reaction. Just like making tea and drinking that tea 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, I wouldn't advise. I would do it once a day and leave it be at that, because you run the risk of having adverse reactions. But anyways, that is yarrow, and we're going to move on from yarrow and we're going to talk about the queen. Now, before I even show you the queen, the best way that I learned to talk about Queen Anne's lace, to identify Queen Anne's lace, is to remember the saying that the queen has hairy legs, and you're about to see why. So when we come over here and we see this plant, this is Queen Anne's lace, okay? And as you see, she has some very hairy legs as your number one identifier for Queen Anne's lace. Number 2, the flower head is going to be concaved, which like cup shaped, as you can see. Much different than that of yarrow. Yarrow's was more of a bell. This will be a cup shaped, and it doesn't grow the upper flower nodes. It has these tiny, tiny flowers that you see all throughout there. And usually that little centerpiece that you see there, if we can get right in there, is purple, and that's the best way to identify it. And then when you come down, this is an older yarrow, or excuse me, Queen Anne's lace, so it's hard to find a good leaf pattern, but there it is. So if you look at the leaf pattern of the queen, also known as the wild carrot, it's much like a carrot's leaves. It's not as brushy, not as that wispy look to it. They're more spaced out, just like so. And that's the queen's leaves. And of course, into the root system is the actual edible fruit of Queen Anne's lace, the wild carrot. It's a shorter looking original carrot, what carrots are supposed to look like. Carrots aren't supposed to look like what they do today. We made them that way. But the carrot to these ones, it's much shorter, but it's still very good. And the whole plant itself, especially that root carrot, smells like modern day carrot. So that's a good identifier. But I really wanted to just discuss here the difference between Yarrow and Queen Anne's lace. Thankfully I have both growing here. I have a lot of stuff right here off of this power line growing. Blackberry bushes, wild lettuce, mixed in with some poison ivy right over there. So it's just kind of a mix of things here that are useful and also dangerous. So these are just two that get confused. Now there is one more that is look-alike similar to this, and that is the hemlock. And I'll do a video on the hemlock. That's a dangerous one. But that will be a part of all my dangerous plants video series that you'll be seeing in the future. But these two are very useful. So if you can identify them, go out, harvest them, and see if you can use them. But remember my rule of 3, don't take my word for it. Check it 3 times. Go back again and make sure you have what you have. You don't want to mix plants up and then have something go wrong, because it could be a very bad day. You can end up very, very sick or even worse. So, all right, guys, so there it is, Queen Anne's lace and Yarrow. I hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you know where to send the messages or comment below. And other than that, I will talk to you guys later. I'm looking forward to the weekend. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Be nice to each other.